Mark, have you ever had a friend who's just gone out of their way to do something really thoughtful for you?
I have.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I have a friend in Richmond, Virginia. We've been friends for about 10 years. We became friends before my daughter was born.
Okay.
So like between Liam and Anya. And we've never lived in the same state.
Never in the same state?
Never.
Okay.
Our husbands were both on staff with the same college ministry. And so we just became friends through that. And then our friendship really deepened. Like we had a shared experience of having miscarriages. And we just supported each other through that. And so it sort of started with like text messages. And then it went to Voxer, which is an app that you can send voice messages to each other.
I'm glad you explained that because I've
Yep.
never used it
Yep.
myself.
And now we mostly converse on Marco Polo, which is a video message app. And I looked back at the last couple of months, and I think we send usually about 20 messages altogether. So a couple of times a week, we'll send each other messages, and they might be like 5 minutes. They might be 20 minutes if we've got a lot going on. But it's just like a way that we've stayed connected. We just check in with each other. How's it going? What's going on? And last year, around this time, I was experiencing some difficult things, and she knew about what was going on and offered to set up a virtual happy hour. So it was like one of those moments where she knew that I needed more than just like a impersonal check-in. Like we needed to be able to talk kind of face to face. And so she set that up, and we just spent like a couple of hours talking together, and she was supporting me. And then over the next few months, she's like checked in since then to say like, how's that going? And what's going on? And how are you doing? And I just really felt cared for her in the way that she cared for by her and how she responded to that. So what about you? Do you have a story kind of like that?
I do, and I can relate to your story because I think sometimes as we're going through being a pastor, there's stuff that we experience as pastors that can be really isolating.
Yeah.
And to have a friend, like even if they're in another state, where you can like process a little bit what's going on, and you get some support. It's super helpful. I think back and I think through my time of being a pastor, and there's certain weeks where you're like, I can't believe this is happening to me.
Like I literally can't believe this is my life right now.
Yes, there's just stuff that you get exposed to as a pastor where you're around people and situations and things that are just really outside the norm.
Yeah.
And it's both a privilege and sometimes it's really heavy. And I can think back like a year and a half ago, I had a really unique pastoral care situation where I was like pinching myself, like, I can't believe this is happening right now. And there was a situation in our church that involved church administration, which, executive pastor, not exciting, but like also really challenging. And
Right.
like, how am I going to figure this out? And then there was another situation that involved caring for people and policy. And I was like, oh, how are we going to figure this out? And it was just one thing after another thing after another thing in a given week. And I reached out to one of my friends and was just giving him just a little small bit of what was going on. And it was so helpful for me to be able to share with him what was going on. Well, later on that day, I'm at my house and I'm exhausted. It's been just a week where everything has felt like it's coming at me. And the doorbell rings and I go and answer the door, and my friend is there and he has a beer in his hand. A beer.
One single.
A beer. And he had thought of me and he knew that I would enjoy it. And so he was just dropping it off at my house. I love craft beer, super big beer fan. And he just dropped it off and was like, I know it's been a tough week, and turned around and left. And I loved it because we had talked earlier. I didn't need to talk or process anymore. Right. But the thoughtfulness of the beer, the beer was, it was perfect in that moment. I really felt cared for and supported.
Yeah. So, I mean, I shared a story about like my friend who lives in Richmond. We do have pretty close friends here in Lansing, but we've lived here for a little over 2 years, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time to build close friendships. And what we'll find today as we're talking about prayer is that tending our relationship with God is a lot like tending a friendship. There's a lot of similarities in how we like grow our friendships and care for our friends in how we are in relationship with God. And we'll find that there's times that like being in relationship with God requires some intentionality. like dropping off a craft beer for someone. And sometimes it can happen sort of unintentionally where we're just like friends with people and things happen. But before we get into all of that and what that means to be friends with God, let's stop here for a chat question. Can you think of a time when a friend went out of their way to care for you? Take a minute and talk about it.